My name is Laura, 36, a family law attorney. In a world where love and loyalty should be certainties, I found only a fragile illusion about to crumble around me. I was in the midst of wedding preparations with Amanda, the woman I believed to be my soulmate. The radiant glow of white flowers and the joyous laughter of guests filled the air, but a dark cloud hung over my chest, heavy as lead. The bridal suite buzzed with excitement, but my gaze was distant, fixed on a point across the room. It was an ordinary moment, until I noticed a subtle detail that changed everything. Fern, my sister, and Amanda exchanged glances that were more than idle. A knowing smile played on Fern's lips, and something inside me shattered. It was like a mirror breaking, revealing a cruel truth I refused to accept. I'd always fought against the idea that my relationship with Amanda could be threatened by a blood tie. Fern has always been competitive, always wanting what was mine. Part of me wanted to believe their interaction was inconsequential, a fleeting moment of distraction. But looking at that smirk, a deep chasm of distrust began to form within me. The whispers of laughter came accompanied by Amanda's love-struck gaze, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of the situation. What a sacred union conceals can shatter the most beautiful illusions, I thought, as the harsh reality weighed upon me. For years, we'd built dreams of a life together. And now I stood here, watching the two people I loved most exchange pleasantries in a devastating act of betrayal. The picture-perfect happiness I'd envisioned began to unravel, like a delicate house of cards in a gale. A wave of emotions crashed over me. I was the attorney who always dealt with others' traumas. But now, the irony of my own situation hit me hard. I had remarkable skills in detecting manipulation and betrayal. How could I have been so blind? Before me, the future I'd imagined lay in tatters, and I found myself sinking into a sea of uncertainty. I diverted my gaze to a corner of the room where others were enjoying themselves, trying to distract myself from the anguish. My heart pounded as I tried to piece together this horrifying scene. The knowing glances between the two women were undeniable now that I was truly paying attention. Family gatherings, whispers between Fern and Amanda, always few, but enough to stir a strange unease within me. I just wanted to ignore it, to wish it was all a product of my overactive imagination. The feeling of betrayal spread like a shadow, consuming memories of happy times I'd shared with Amanda. I recalled our last trip together, the laughter as we walked hand in hand on the beach, the way she looked at me when I proposed, the hesitation and then the certainty in her eyes. All of it now felt distant, a faint echo of something inaccessible. A controlled breath brought me back to the present, but I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was crumbling around me. The happiest day of my life was slowly morphing into a nightmare. I maintained my composure, observant as always, but a storm of questions raged. Could I trust Amanda? Had Fern, with her eternal desire for superiority, crossed a line that couldn't be undone? Feeling my world shattering, I decided I needed answers. I would seek out what was hidden, even if it cost me my heart. Instead of despair, a quiet determination began to take hold. I wouldn't be defeated by those I considered loved ones. This was only the beginning of my journey, and even with a heavy heart, I was ready to uncover the truth, no matter how painful. Looking back is always a double-edged sword. Nostalgia can warm the heart, but the pain of betrayal has plunged me into memories that now seem to have been colored by a distorted lens. My first encounter with Amanda is one such memory that, even now, feels like a distant echo, reverberating in a past I wish I could have kept intact. It was a sunny afternoon, sunlight filtering through the trees of the university park. We met at a family law conference. I was presenting a divorce case I'd worked on for years, while she was there as an assistant to a renowned lawyer, just starting her career. I remember how her eyes shone as we talked about the intricate legislation on asset division. There was a freshness in her gaze that instantly captivated me. Our conversations quickly turned into laughter, the chemistry flowing as if we were destined for each other. It was as if words were invisible strings connecting our souls. Our relationship developed slowly, but with an overwhelming intensity. In the beginning, affection manifested in passionate emoji-filled text messages and impromptu dinners that lasted until the wee hours of the morning. Every moment we shared left a deeper mark on my heart. Amanda was the sunshine in my days. Her smile lit up my world. Little did I know that this brightness was about to blind my vision to the shadow Fern cast over us. There was always a competitive dynamic with Fern. Since childhood, her craving for attention and validation made her a powerful presence in my life. Each of my accomplishments seemed to ignite a spark of rivalry in her. While I won school competitions and earned awards, Fern resented the space I occupied, like a bird squawking for a place in the tree. I tried to offer support, always encouraging her to shine instead of dimming my light. For every step I took, she wanted to take too, but never went further. It started with little jabs, but as we grew into adulthood, it evolved into a silent battle. I never imagined this rivalry could have such drastic repercussions. I was so caught up in the idea of experiencing true love that I ignored the signs that things weren't right, that the dynamic between the three of us was becoming increasingly problematic. Whispers between Fern and Amanda, exchanged glances. These things hadn't bothered me before, but now, with the cracks in my heart already showing, they did. One moment, in particular, is etched in my memory. During a family dinner, after a tender interaction between Amanda and me, I saw Fern's look. Her expression was a mixture of admiration and a lingering resentment that sent a chill down my spine. It was as if the atmosphere was thick with tension, a poignant disconnect I didn't want to acknowledge. From then on, I became more observant, but never believed that attentiveness would turn into anxiety. As I revisit these memories, I realize how my intuition warned me about the potential problems ahead. Deep down, I feared that Amanda's loyalty might be in question, but I didn't want to believe it. She was the woman I planned to build a future with, the woman I dreamed of sharing my life with. The stress of wedding preparations led to a deeper analysis of the nuances of our life together. Every gesture I had previously considered harmless now cast a shadow on my heart. And with every smile between the two women I loved, the distance between us only grew. As a lawyer, I understood that emotions are part of the equation of love. However, it's at the intersection where love and ambition collide that irreparable damage can occur. I realized that, over time, I had become not only the enchanted bride, but also a cautious observer. What were once innocent exchanges transformed into an atmosphere rife with intrigue and suspicion. Amidst this emotional turmoil, an even crueler truth soon surfaced. My sister's past was intertwined with Amanda's, like threads in a complicated web. Through a message exchange with a mutual friend, I learned that Amanda and Fern knew each other before I met Amanda. What began as a friendship had blossomed into something deeper. But at the time, I had no idea how deep that bond truly was. Reliving her memories from a time that wasn't part of my own was a painful exercise. The dynamics between the three of us had always seemed challenging, but I was never prepared for the possibility that someone I trusted could turn into a betrayer. The bitter taste of this discovery ruined what were once warm and sweet memories. Beyond being the third person in what seemed like a healthy relationship, I began to see how the addition of a new layer of jealousy and insecurities could overshadow everything I had built over the years. On the very night I received that message, I had to meet Amanda. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, and the woman staring back seemed a little more worn, though I still tried to hide it. Controlling my expression was the hardest part. I needed to steer the conversation to a place where I could ask questions without being seen as a jealous lunatic. So, throughout the week, I tried to organize buckets of stress. What was work stress transformed into home stress, and consequently, into distrust in relationships. The pressure to be the perfect bride was immense, while my heart pulsed with uncertainty. My days became an internal battle between the desire to trust and the growing distrust. The interaction between us was a stretched tightrope, always on the verge of snapping. As I pondered these complex interactions, a mix of anxiety and determination began to overwhelm me. I needed to make a choice. Was I willing to fight for my love, Or would it be easier to ignore the signs and live in denial? This was an internal battle I had, up to that point, chosen to face alone. However, it was clear that these memories needed to be respected, not just as a beacon of hope, but as a warning of an approaching storm. The intensification of feelings, the memories that were no longer pleasant, and the growing shadow of distrust brought about a transformation in me. The love that once brought me serenity began to weigh on my chest like a cannonball. I needed to confront the truth, even if that truth cut me like a sharp knife. The time of ignoring what surrounded me was over. It was time to uncover what was hidden, no matter how painful it might be. I was determined not to let this love fade away without a fight, and that fueled me with the determination needed to discover what was truly happening. The determination to confront the truth pulsed inside me like a car battery, a vital energy finally activated. My wedding day was fast approaching, and while I used to be excited for the ceremony, now I only craved answers. It felt like the atmosphere in my house was charged, like a storm cloud about to unleash its fury. The interactions between me, Amanda, and Fern were about to become the derailment of a speeding train. That fateful morning, upon waking, I knew my feelings of distrust weren't merely paranoia, but a genuine warning. I decided to formulate a plan. My background as a family lawyer made me a natural investigator. I've always known that every detail mattered, and every clue could be an indicator of what was to come. Thus began my investigation, a journey that obligated me to revisit everything I believed I had built with love and loyalty. With these intentions clear in mind, I called a private investigator friend who had always stood out for his sharp eye. He was not only discreet, but also had access to tools that could help me in such delicate matters. "Laura, this is serious," he warned with his deep, careful voice. "What you're trying to uncover is deeper than it seems." I affirmed that I needed his help and briefly shared what I had discovered through Amanda's messages. The sound of his breath as he heard what I had to say denoted his acceptance of the gravity of the situation. "Don't worry, I'll get information for you," he promised, his words offering a brief wave of relief in the turbulent sea that was my life at that moment. We agreed that he could update me as he collected the data I requested, and so, the first traps were set in search of the truth. The first days of the investigation were a struggle not only for information, but an attempt to balance normalcy at home. I tried to be the perfect bride, but the pressure was overwhelming. When I was with Amanda, a kind smile was fixed on my face, and we made wedding plans. Our conversations were filled with her enthusiasm, but I felt like an actress in a dark film where I knew the climax, but didn't know how to get there. One morning, Amanda mentioned that she was going out to meet Fern for coffee. My heart pounded at the mention, and on impulse, I asked to go with them. "Oh, honey, you need to rest and get ready for the big day," she replied, with a condescending tone that sat badly. Amanda's intention to exclude me from those moments countered a subtle inner despair. Why were they seeing each other without me? As soon as they left, I seized the opportunity. My computer became my ally, the place where I could investigate and track without being detected. The mind that was once light now became a strategic battlefield. I knew that a lawyer always leaves a communication trail, and I decided I would focus on that same concept. In the web browsers, there was a certainty that, through technology, I could get closer to the truth. That's when I opened Amanda's email application. Even though her account was password protected, I didn't let myself be discouraged. My experience with contracts and planning showed me that if I focused on the information and the minimal security steps she might use, I could gain access. I used pet names and significant dates as my keys. After a few long minutes of anxiety, access was granted, and the illuminated screen brought not relief, but challenge. The first email exchange I noticed was between her and an address I didn't recognize. Apparently, someone was encouraging her to enjoy the moments, and a wave of disgust went up my spine. As I continued to examine, I realized that complicity was present. There was a constant exchange of ideas and whispers that should not have been shared. My hands trembled as I read the messages that appeared before me. The situation was far more intense than I could have imagined. I found a series of messages in the messaging app that was safeguarded. It was pure confidentiality. What was a simple, "Hi, beautiful," easily transformed into a script of hidden plans for the wedding party. Comments about how they couldn't wait to dance tonight caused a burning red flush on my face. This was the connection they were cultivating, and I had been excluded from this celebration, as if every part of me was being surrounded by lies. With each new discovery, the agony grew. I knew I needed a plan. It wasn't enough to just have access to their exchanges. I needed to understand the nature of their relationship on an intimate level. Subtle messages could be analyzed like a lawyer examines a contract. This would become the tool of my challenge. The malevolence that had emerged revealed a never-ending firefight. At that moment, not only was betrayal leading the charge, but genuine love was threatened. As the day progressed, I continued to explore this information. The need to pursue a new narrative became more evident. This battlefield demanded that I prepare myself, that I interact like the best lawyer I always aspired to be. I decided that the confrontation would happen, and by confronting Amanda and Fern, I would find the truth that would set me free. When the two finally returned home, the tension was palpable. It was a silent stage, and my heart vibrated as well. My intention was to absorb this truth and ask questions, but I knew I would be about to enter an atmosphere rife with accusations. However, I was firm. I needed to discuss this matter face to face to expose the truth, and on the other hand, demand explanations. The feelings of betrayal burned like searing flames within me. Courage found me. I knew I was about to walk a path where truth would be the only way out, and even if there was pain, it was pain I was willing to face. Night was approaching, and I was determined to let honesty prevail, even if it meant confronting the two faces I once believed I knew. The next step was clear and precise, and the revelation of the truth would become my greatest ally. The atmosphere in that room was heavy, as if the air were electric and poised for an explosion. The tension wasn't just on my account. Amanda and Fern were also restless. After my initial words, their silence transformed into a whirlwind of uncertainty, and I knew the moment of truth was drawing nearer with each passing second. What had once been a welcoming and familiar environment had now become an emotional battleground where feelings and secrets intertwined, creating a mercurial web of betrayal. With my resolve still fresh in my mind, I decided I couldn't hesitate. I faced them both, with unwavering eyes and a clarity that only pain can bring. "We need to be honest with each other now," I said. "I've found messages between you, and what I read deeply disturbed me." The strength in my voice was punctuated by vulnerability, a reflection of the emotional turmoil rising within me. Fern didn't respond immediately. Instead, her eyes darted to Amanda, seeking perhaps a sign of support or an escape plan. Amanda, understanding the gravity of the situation, decided to take the lead. "Laura, I never meant to hurt you. You know I love you. But over time, I let myself get carried away by the connection I have with Fern." Her words cut meticulously to their meaning. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was an affection that had long been suppressed, finally overflowing into a secret relationship. What had started as a friendship had transformed into something more. My mind spun as I tried to process it all. "We can't feel good about this. We have to find a way out of this," said Fern, deciding to contribute to the conversation. I had imagined that by confronting them, I would get the truth and perhaps a logical explanation. But the situation was far more complicated than that simplistic view. "So you waited until what, Fern?" "Until you and Amanda felt so close that you felt comfortable cheating on me." Anger began to flow unreservedly. "Laura, it's not just that," Amanda interjected. "I was confused, and we developed a connection I never imagined could exist between me and Fern. I didn't want to hurt you, but once I realized these feelings were real, it was hard to push them away." Her words carried a sincerity that might work for another, but not for me. What I sought wasn't justification, but the core of their betrayal, which was as painful to deal with as an open wound. "Saying you were confused isn't an alibi," I declared firmly, cutting off her argument. I couldn't be fooled by a lover's excuses. Whether you wanted to or not, you chose to make me the third wheel here. Now, my voice was not only sharp, but also pained. The memories of what we had built were intertwined and now crumbling. Silence ensued, and what had once been words of friendship and love now turned into laments. I was on a tightrope. The pain of the betrayal hit with the brutality of a free fall. But Amanda and Fern's confession wasn't limited to their broken hearts. It revealed a dark and treacherous side that had grown between us. "Laura, I'm so sorry," said Fern, trying to steer the conversation in a different direction. The connection I established with Amanda was unexpected, and I didn't plan to fall in love with her. It just happened. The echo of these words reverberated within me, and my urge to scream, to fight for the truth, teetered on the edge of pain and weakness. "You don't have the right to leave this situation as it is. That's not fair." I was about to explode, a volcano erupting, but I still wondered how to break through these barriers of character to extract what was truest. What did this mean to you two? Am I just a stepping stone in your hearts? The question hung in the air like a sword, reflective and sharp. The truth was revealing itself in the conversation, but it was a path I didn't want to travel. Both hesitated, unsure whether to defend themselves further or remain silent. "I like you, Amanda. But what I feel for you, Fern," Amanda began, but didn't finish the sentence. The feelings in the room were like a storm, a whirlwind of interconnected forces, mixing love and disrespect. The world spun around me, and deep down, I knew this battle for truth was about to deliver consequences. I watched them with a mixture of anger, confusion, and despair. I wanted the truth, yes, but I wasn't willing to accept the fragility of their emotions as a free pass for betrayal. "Listen," I said, trying to regain focus. "I'm not here to label you as good or bad. My focus now is on the truth. Whatever this connection you have is, it shouldn't outweigh what we built together." My voice resonated with a sense of urgency, a call to reason that might still save them. The idea that their love could be stronger than our history is terrifying. My marriage shouldn't be a mask to hide them from me, and I shouldn't have to beg for the respect that only time can create. What I was saying was a portrait of pain and certainty. What we had was far more than vague descriptions. As the conversation progressed, I could see the reality in the way they looked at me. Fern, carelessly, tried to find ways to defend herself, but Amanda was lost, confused in her own narrative. I knew that simple resolutions would never help. It would only open new wounds that needed to be closed. "I demand that both of you face reality. Fern, if you truly care about Amanda, treat her as she deserves, with honesty." The words came out of me clearly, and the atmosphere had a new tone. It was time to take a stand. Now let's discuss what's at stake. Our history, what initially brought us together, what seemed to all of us like true love. And however real your love may be, I cannot and will not accept that this becomes the hole through which we both have to pass every day. What had begun as a plea for understanding had transformed into a real judgment, and I couldn't allow this state of uncertainty to become the new norm. They both seemed to absorb every word, processing the current of despair, mixed with aversion that was welling up in me. The struggle wasn't just for answers, but for the preservation of the love I always thought sustained our lives. Now, more than ever, it was clear that truth and transparency needed to be more than a simple negotiation. They needed to be defended as fortresses of sincere love. Silence stretched for a seemingly interminable time until, resolute, I asked the question that had been clouding my mind for minutes. Furtively, in fact. "So, what do we do now?" The weight of doubt dissipated, and what remained left a blank space where the future would now take shape. The answers wouldn't come easily. Amanda, in an anguished attempt, finally looked into my eyes and said, "I want to work on this, Laura. I want you in my life, and I'm willing to leave all this behind. But the decision is yours." What I saw was a genuine attempt, but still not enough. "Fern?" I asked, seeking a position. Fate had been decided. I hoped they would both now resolve the situation they had created together. "I'm going to step away," Fern said, each word heavy, yet failing under scrutinizing eyes. "It was difficult, but I need to remove my presence to allow you and Amanda to build something healthy." I wished relief were there, but my relationship with both of them had been transformed into a delectable complexity. The moment transcended the limits of passion and civility. There were no longer passions infused in interactions, but the primal need to discuss what love meant. The storm was about to pass, but not before it left its mark. The promises made would remain as echoes in our minds, and what was left of the foundations of our love might one day become strong again. But right now, what I had on my mind was the harshness of the confrontation and the power that sincerity held. The next move was now mine, and I was determined to shape it to my own liking, for I had finally received the justice I sought. Amidst the uncertainties, a new path opened, where truth would become the foundation for rediscovering what is inherent in each of us. The room was filled with a heavy, almost tangible silence, as Amanda and I tried to process the gravity of the situation. The reverberations of the betrayal and the confusion of emotions were still raw, and there was a weight to the words that needed to be spoken. It was clear that, to move forward, we would need to unearth what was hidden beneath layers of secrets and mistrust. "So what do we do now?" The question slipped out of me like a whisper, and the profound silence in response seemed to surround us, as if the world had stopped. This was a crucial moment. As a lawyer, I had always believed in the importance of transparency and honesty. But what I hadn't expected was that this pursuit of truth would become so intricate and emotionally draining. Amanda took a deep breath and began to speak, her voice calmer than the turbulent feeling in her gaze. "I want to work on this, Laura. I want you in my life, and I'm willing to leave all this behind. But the decision is yours." I found sincerity in her eyes, but a part of me was reluctant to simply accept. "You can't just leave things hanging and expect everything to work itself out, Amanda. We need a plan, a purpose." Fern, still standing beside Amanda, seemed contained in her hurt. "I'm going to step away," she said, each word weighing like a stone in her chest. "It wasn't easy for me, and I know my presence might hinder what you and Amanda are trying to build. For your sake, I need to step back and distance myself." The echo of her words yielded to the room, and in some part of me, I wished the truth were that simple. "Stepping away won't solve everything, Fern," I interjected, anguish in my gaze. "Yes, it might make things a little easier, but it won't be enough. We need a definitive solution, not just a temporary escape." Their gazes met in a kind of mutual understanding, but it was still visible that the pain was present. The situation escalated from an exchange of words into an emotional battlefield, where every sentence became a drawn sword. "We need to explore the root of this problem," I continued, my voice firm. "The connection you've formed and what you feel for each other can't simply be ignored or suppressed by guilt." Both seemed confused, each lost in their own thoughts, and the atmosphere felt like I was navigating murky waters. "Look," I said, deciding I needed to be more direct. "This isn't just a love problem, it's a power struggle, and I can't ignore what that means for all of us." The words hung in the air, like a storm about to break. I felt I was at the eye of the hurricane, where I needed to be, and the clarity of my resolve emerged strongly. "Amanda, you can't persist with this connection with Fern if you hope to build a future with me. And Fern, your presence, however well-intentioned, will only reinforce the knots in this mess, unless I see truth in your eyes. I deserve honesty. You both do. Ultimately, the truth will always prevail." Silence unfolded once more, and I realized I was about to confront what should have been spoken long ago. I glanced from one to the other, feeling the palpable tension, a charged energy vibrating through the walls. What's happening here isn't simple. This dynamic is intertwined with betrayal and ambition, and I can't let that shape my decisions. Fern, now with tears welling up, broke down. "I didn't try to betray you, Laura. What started as a friendship grew into something deeper. I let myself get carried away by it, and suddenly I realized everything was crumbling around me. The connection with Amanda showed me a side of myself I'd never explored. With those feelings laid bare, I looked at Amanda. And you? What do you truly feel? I'm starting to realize this goes beyond the three of us. Fern's words had created a different bridge between us. I saw the struggle in Amanda's eyes, a battle between what the heart feels and what reason demands. Laura, the truth is, I love you. But at the same time, the connection I made with Fern opened my eyes to another kind of love, one I never realized could exist. I didn't seek her out, but once I got to know her, I couldn't stop the feelings from growing. Amanda's gaze widened in agony, and the passion she was riding was a whirlwind of emotions. I always thought I could balance both paths, but now I realized that was an illusion. The weight of her confession became clear to me. What might have seemed like a simple relationship had become a minefield, where every emotion intertwined and unfolded into personal interests. As I absorbed each word, a new epiphany began to form within me. We need to discuss this openly. The love we shared must now be more than a matter of moments. The connection we've hidden for so long needs to be explored. What each of you feels and isn't comfortable expressing needs to come out and be exposed to the light. My tone conveyed an invitation to truth, to honesty. The two looked at each other, and with a gesture, Fern began to speak. I don't want you to think I'm trying to undermine your love for Amanda. I just feel I have no choice about how I feel. It's simply a side that's also part of me, and I hope that by sharing this, we can prevent it from becoming a deeper rivalry over time. Amanda leaned towards Fern, seeking a way to connect. Romantic love and friendship didn't have to be barriers. They could coexist, and, in doing so, create new ways of facing a life that has its anxieties and its pleasures. If you're willing to step back, this could just be a phase. I'm not suggesting you distance yourself from me, but perhaps you can try to find a way to also distance yourself romantically, Amanda said. With that gesture, the dynamic in the room opened up like a new array of possibilities. The previous clash transformed into collaborations in the face of uncertainty. Honesty in the conversation was emerging as a force. So, what's next? I asked. How can we make this work, now that we've exposed our vulnerabilities? The question reverberated in the air, and although the sense of uncertainty remained, the desire to move forward had become palpable. In asking this question, I knew we were moving toward something that could be extraordinary. We can re-establish boundaries. We can start with open communication, Fern suggested, striving to keep clarity in her tone. We set rules that need to be followed, about what we can and cannot do. A safe space is vital for us to recover what is important to all of us. We'll do this together, I nodded, feeling that this new direction was the way. If we're all willing to do what it takes, we can rebuild our unity in a new way. When it comes to love, it takes delicacy, even in the most dangerous storms. It was clear that our sincerity alone already showed its strength. Love was not just a physical connection, but a network of care and understanding embodied in respect. Fern was right, and everything that could now happen had the potential to redirect our journey. The following weeks were an intense exercise in self-discovery and emotional rediscovery. The meetings became more than just gatherings. They were group therapy sessions, where each session brought to the surface fears, tears, and laughter, all interspersed with kindness and a desire to heal the wounds that had for so long been hidden under layers of resentment. There was a rawness to the conversations that surprised me. However, the sincerity that emerged from these moments made me feel a sense of relief, as if an invisible pressure had dissipated from my mind and heart. During one of these sessions, Amanda and Fern shared their previous experiences of love, fears, and insecurities, and I realized that they weren't just two women in conflict, but people who were shaping themselves from their own journeys. Fern, in a moment of courage, spoke about her childhood. I always grew up in Laura's shadow. Even if our parents never openly stated it, there was a silent pressure for me to be as good as you. I always felt like I needed to be better at everything. When I met Amanda, it was as if something finally clicked inside me. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to be myself. That revelation caused a new kind of empathy to arise in me. I also carried insecurities. Until that moment, I had been so focused on my own pain that I hadn't deciphered my sister's inner struggle. Fern, I never wanted you to feel that way. I always saw you as my partner, not a rival, I replied sincerely, feeling the knot in my chest begin to unravel. Amanda, observing everything, added, I didn't know these pressures existed between you. This really changes how I see the situation, especially the relationship we've established. It's a reflection of the challenges we all face. Her face showed vulnerability, and I could see how the feelings were emerging from the safe space we had created. As the conversations unfolded, I began to notice that the love we were developing together wasn't just an invitation to fragility, but also a celebration of collective strength. Each of us was freeing ourselves from the chains that bound us and constrained us from expressing genuine emotions. With each meeting, I felt like we were truly beginning to form something new. However, I didn't fail to notice that the shadow of the betrayal still lingered, as did the emotional scars it had left. During another meeting, when the atmosphere was especially open, I found myself needing to address the feeling of ambiguity that still permeated my mind. We need to discuss what each of us wants for the future, regardless of what has already happened, I said during one of our meetings. If we don't know where we're going, we risk getting lost again. They both nodded, and I felt it was the right time to delve deeper into the conversation. Amanda, what do you really expect from this relationship? I asked, my heart heavy with expectation and hope. Her expression was thoughtful, as if she were pondering her own desires. I definitely want us to be happy together, but I also wonder if I can really have room to love and respect my friendship with Fern without it becoming something that consumes me. I don't want to put anyone in a position of doubt, including you. Amanda seemed determined as she expressed her intentions. Fern, realizing that the conversation had intensified, commented, I don't want your relationship to become something destructive. I really care about you, Laura, and that includes your happiness. This sincerity caused a wave of emotion to wash over me. I wanted to believe that however strong the pain had been, there was a genuine desire to restore harmony. The conversations continued deep and spirited as we explored the nuances of our interaction. The feeling of freedom, finally, began to grow. Looking at this, it's evident that there is love in various forms, I declared. We can be romantic with each other, but sibling love and friendship should also have space. If we acknowledge and respect these multiple stars in our sky, we can find a new way to coexist. As these conversations unfolded, I began to realize we weren't just forging a new relationship between myself, Amanda, and Fern, but were gathering lessons learned to build a new era of respect. Decisions were made to extend our meetings, making them more frequent than just once-a-week gatherings, and through this practice, we managed to elevate the relationship to another level. However, not everything was so simple. In the last week of an intense month of meetings, I discovered that Amanda was growing closer to Fern emotionally, and this caused a pang of jealousy I hadn't anticipated. A part of me felt threatened, questioning whether I could truly handle the idea of losing something that had always been mine. I can sense the dynamic shifting again. What's going on between you two? I cautiously asked after our last meeting. The doubt about their involvement was pressing on my heart again. I didn't want to witness the creation of a new bond that could steal the friendship we were building. They exchanged glances, an echo of distrust hanging in the air. But Amanda, determined, made a declaration. Laura, I want you to know that the feelings I'm cultivating for Fern are genuine, but they shouldn't diminish what we have between us. There are different ways to feel love. What I want is to balance it all, not have one love come at the expense of another. She reached out, taking my hand in a gesture that felt so comforting, yet carried a heavy emotional weight. To me, you'll always be a vital part of who I am, but I can't ignore the bond that's formed with Fern. However, that doesn't mean I intend to hurt you again. This new approach is a manifestation of love in all its forms. What she said was a beacon of hope, and for a moment, I hesitated. But that doesn't mean I can't feel threatened by you getting closer to Fern. The words left my mouth with a new weight, and I realized this challenge was a continuous cycle, but one that also demanded dialogue. I try to remember every day that I'm not a prize to be fought over, and that true love can take many forms, Fern intervened, her voice firm yet gentle. I may not know what our future will be, but I want the three of us to coexist, first and foremost. The respect and affection we've formed don't have to be mutually exclusive. It was clear that the new dynamic was leading us to a new configuration. I needed to accept that love could mean respecting each other's choices, that friendship should permeate our relationship, even in a complex interplay of feelings. Each conversation allowed us to do more than just exist. We were building a pillar of independence and interdependence. What could have been the end of our story became a rebirth. Even though doubt and jealousy appeared around every corner, I was willing to face it and make it a confrontation that existed only as an emotional overflow. Keeping our conversations open, as Amanda suggested, allowed us to reshape our narrative. With a new approach, we frequently sat down to discuss how we felt and what we needed from each other. These moments became powerful not only for healing wounds, but also for reinforcing the determination to create a new foundation. Freedom and respect walked hand in hand, and learning to coexist led to a vibrant rebirth. In the months that followed, the love that was once tumultuous and hidden blossomed in a healthier space, where we could understand that nuances could mix like a palette of distinctive colors. Sometimes it was a struggle, but it was a struggle whose meaning and validity became essential. The commitment to respecting true love became the foundation of our new story. What unfolded wasn't a mere exchange of feelings or a division of hearts, but a rich tapestry where each thread corresponded to an experience. Facing the unknown and maintaining communication, we created a bond stronger than we expected. The nights that began under the weight of doubt were now filled with the certainty that, despite everything we had been through, love always had room to be reborn. The journey demanded vulnerability, but also gratitude. With each corresponding step, we built a strong and resilient relationship. Looking to the future, I realized that no challenge was too great for us to overcome together. And that's what truly meant loving. As the months passed, our new ritual of meeting solidified as an essential space in our lives. What could have been a tragic ending was now a rebirth, where the pain of betrayal transformed into learning and self-discovery. The conversations became a regular practice where each revelation gave way to healing and understanding. During one of these sessions, Fern shared a vulnerability that united us even further. I always grew up comparing myself to you, Laura, and when I met Amanda, I thought I'd finally be seen as someone in my own right. Those words resonated with me, showing how internal competition and pressure could transform relationships. I never wanted you to feel that way, Fern, I replied, feeling a new layer of empathy emerge. I always saw you as my partner, and never as a rival. The honesty of that conversation united us on a new level and established a mutual understanding. The love, which once seemed fragile, now felt vibrant in its essence. Amanda, sensing the depth of the conversation, added, "And I want this connection to remain. But please, without leaving your love for each other behind. In fact, this reflects what we have among us, and if a flower blooms, we need to let it grow." Thus, we weren't just redefining our emotions, but beginning to understand that true love can manifest in diverse ways. What could have been a betrayal had become an opportunity to forge deeper, more authentic bonds between us. As time went on, we began to enjoy more moments together. We planned trips, explored new activities, and had days off just to connect with nature. We broke down the barriers of fear, and what were once confusing exchanges became celebrations of love and companionship. In this vibrant new environment, one particular evening gave us the opportunity to confront our fears. Sitting by a lake, the stars reflecting in the water, Amanda said, "Sometimes, I wonder if I'm undervaluing what we have because of the history we've built together." Her sincerity was refreshing, and I knew these conversations were essential. Sensing her concern and vulnerability, I said, "We shouldn't let uncertainties get the better of us. Love is a space where we should feel safe and open. Every time I expose my weaknesses, I realize it doesn't make me less strong. It makes me more human." The words resonated, and a comforting silence followed. However, a dilemma still loomed over us. Though we were moving forward in our new reality, the scars of the past didn't completely disappear. I realized that trust was an ongoing exercise, and even in these moments of unity, lingering traces of jealousy occasionally surfaced. On one occasion, when Fern received a message from an old friend, I resisted the urge to feel threatened. "You should go, Fern. If it's something you truly want, I hope you have a good night," I said with a smile, even though, deep down, insecurities bubbled. When she left, I looked at Amanda with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. What if she starts distancing herself from us again? What would that mean for us? Amanda asked, visibly worried. I wasn't sure, but I knew that to maintain harmony, we needed to discuss these anxieties. We need to unite with every step. Doubt may try to separate us, but we have to remember why we formed this new relationship, I replied, sensing that weakness could transform into strength. What we were building required not only love, but a willingness to face new challenges side by side. In the days that followed, our dynamic began to mature. We compiled our conversations in a notebook, like an emotional journal in which we shared our insecurities and aspirations. This exercise of reflection became comforting and a true outlet. One night, as I wrote about my feelings, I realized I was building not just a new relationship, but a new self. This journey wasn't just about Amanda and Fern. It was also about who I was becoming. The vulnerability I once feared was now a symbol of courage. Finally, when we gathered the following week, a sense of hope was present. Confronting the reality of our emotional complexities had become a tool of unity. Amanda looked at me, her eyes full of determination and understanding. We're all in this together, and our story doesn't have to be full of trauma. We're creating a new chapter, she said, her words echoing the strength we now felt. Then, with a toast to the future that awaited us, the three of us raised our glasses in a gesture of celebration. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, there was a new aura in our lives. Learning, growth, and most importantly, a willingness to face the world together. So, as the journey continued and new challenges arose, I was confident that, with love and honesty, we could weather any storm together. And so, this journey wasn't just about love, but about how to build a richer, more meaningful life in the space we created. Looking to the future, I knew that no matter what obstacles arose, together, we were stronger and more determined to create a reality where truth, trust, and love could coexist, could